ask for your attention to give one of our great leaders of Omega Psi Phi, our former 7th District Representative, Mr. Reggie Harris, to say some remarks and welcome you in to this 7th District Social Action Program. Please give a great round of applause to my brother, our leader, Reggie Harris, former District Representative.
Greetings, everyone. Greetings. Let me first say thank you so much for the opportunity, and also that you thought it not robbery to be here as well in support. As you know, we have Brother Benjamin Crump, who is Black America's Attorney General. As you all know him so well. However, he's here to talk a little bit about his book as well as a book signing. And so we want to first welcome you all in, but then also if you have an opportunity, I'm sure he'll be able to be glad to ask a few questions and get those out also. So take copious notes, as our great ambassadors used to say, and then ensure that you support him. They're going to have the QR code, I believe, on the screens where you can clearly purchase very quickly, and then you can come up and you can have him sign the book. I believe as I talked to the publishers, they talked about authenticity, so they want to make sure that they see him actually signing, so he will be directly signing, not one of those ones you go to and they rubber stamp it. So without further ado, our Black Attorney General, Brother Benjamin Crump, Esquire.
Thank you so much, Brother Harris, for your great leadership. We have another one of our frat brothers who's going to introduce some special guests who he know very personally. Y'all give it up for Dr. Damian Kynes from Merit to Medicine.
Greetings, my brothers. Greetings to all the beautiful women here. I always like to start off, anytime I speak, I want to talk about God first. I'm so thankful. God has placed us here. God has placed you here. God has placed you where you can hear my voice. But before I talk about too much of that, because you'll get me preaching, I'm going to go ahead and just introduce the two women that I want to introduce. First, I'll start out with Mrs. Quad Webb. Quad has done so much. She's been a host on Sister Circle. She is a current representative for the Millennium Medical Group, NICU. So she is just versatile. Of course, she is an incredible star on Married to Medicine. So, and she's also been helping Heavenly with her campaign as a campaign manager on the show, and in real life, she really does a lot of stuff. So if you guys could just give a hand for her, that would be
awesome. Thank you so much.
And last but certainly not least is my wonderful wife, Dr. Heavenly Kynes. She's a doctor. I could say all kinds of things, but what I want to say is she's been my source of strength for a very long time. We've been together for 30 plus years. I say 33 at this point. So I know her. So when you guys go to think about who you're going to vote for District 13, vote for somebody who's going to work hard. Trust me, I've not seen her in the past several weeks because she's working her butt off. And guess who else is working? Me too, because I'm her support. So Dr. Heavenly Kynes has accomplished a lot. She's a dentist. She's done so many extra courses that she can do everything from dental surgery procedures, implants, whatever. But she's an amazing star on Married to Medicine. I know she's made you crack a smile at least once. But the thing about it is she is running for Congress. She's running for Congress because we need change. We need somebody who's not going to stay quiet. We need somebody who's not going to be afraid. And we need somebody who has backup. Guess who's her backup? God and certainly me. So I want to just introduce our next Congresswoman for District 13 representing Georgia, Dr. Heavenly Kynes.
Hey, how y'all doing? How y'all doing?
You have to say it, the next Congresswoman from the great state of Texas, Dr. Heavenly Kynes.
Georgia.
I'm living in Texas.
What the thing about it is, Ben has been all over the globe. We know Ben works so hard. He is countlessly giving his total self to everyone. And it's just a pleasure to be with you today and just to celebrate you being on a New York Times bestsellers list. That's a big deal. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. We made it happen. And you are so deserving.
Thank you so much.
Can we dive in?
We can dive in. I just want to say welcome. Thank y'all from the bottom of my heart, because what we're trying to dispel, Quad and Heavenly, is 2 stereotypes that are not true. Number 1, that black people don't buy books, and number 2, that black people don't read. And so let's make sure we destroy that false narrative and let our children know that not only do we read, but we empower black authors.
That's right.
I think a lot of people don't know that Ben did film with us on Married to Medicine. I want to just say that first and foremost, but I'm so proud of you, Ben. We've been knowing Ben for years and years, and he has never ceased to not to amaze me. He's an amazing guy, an amazing attorney. We were at his birthday party, and he's done so many things. Y'all know this brother Rich. I'm saying, but he's done so many things, and I'm just so proud of you, brother. And this is just one more knock on your belt. Ben Crump, worse than a lie. So we're gonna start the questions. Go ahead, Ms. Quad.
What's worse than a lie? Because a lie don't care who tell it.
Amen.
How about it?
Amen.
Hey.
So I just want to start off with, what inspired you to write this book? I understand it took about 5 years to do so.
Yeah, it's kind of deep, Quad, because Thurgood Marshall was my personal hero, and Thurgood said that most people will never really know what happens in a courtroom when you're fighting for liberty and justice for marginalized people, especially black and brown people. And so he said he would always write his memorandums of law and his pleadings and his law briefs to be very engaging, because he wanted to entice people to read and to be educated. So I said to myself, Quad, what could be more engaging than a legal thriller? Because John Grisham with The Rainmaker and Michael Connelly with The Lincoln Lawyer, they write books every year and they sell tens and millions of those books. So I said to myself, I'm going to write a civil rights legal thriller, because now, if there ever was a time in America we need to talk about the importance of civil rights, it's right now. And so that was my motivation.
What was the process like for you? And then I'll let you get it.
Yeah, it was deep, because I started writing this book during the pandemic, when I thought, well, everything shut down, I have some time. And I started to try to write the book, Quad. And as you all know, because we did that episode during those very volatile times, Married to Medicine. And it was deep, because it seemed like everything in America has shut down except racism and police brutality.
Yeah.
I started writing, and then we get a call about Ahmaud Arbery, this young brother who was lynched for jogging while black, not in 1940s, not in 1950s, but in 2020, they lynched him. And so we went to Brunswick, Georgia, and was working on that matter, Dr. Kimes, and then we come back home, start writing. I was living in Tallahassee, Florida at the time, and then I get a call from a sister, attorney Lanita Baker, who at the time was the president of the National Bar Association. And she said, Ben, they killed this college student named Breonna Taylor in her own apartment, and nobody seems to care. And even though it was the pandemic, and I was like, I could come up with 1,000 reasons why not to go, my heart and my soul as a father of a black daughter said, you gotta go. And we fought to make them say her name, Breonna Taylor, and we continue to say her name.
Absolutely.
And then Dr. Kimes, as I finally got home from Louisville, thought that, okay, I can keep writing this book. And then we get a call from Minneapolis, Minnesota, where George Floyd is tortured to death with a knee on his neck for 9 minutes and 29 seconds. And so I didn't have to go to Minneapolis for a month. And so all the time I'm trying to write this book, And I think God meant for it to happen because a lot of the stuff I wrote in the book was, even though it's fictional, it had a large degree of reality of what we were going through, seeing this unnecessary death of Black people. And even as I think today, I still remember those photographs of Breonna Taylor laying in her hallway of her own apartment with 8 bullet holes in her body while she's practically naked. And that could have been any of our daughters. And so that's what the process was like. It was therapeutic in some regards, Ali, because it allowed me to write about a world, a universe where we could see a better outcome for our people. And that's what fiction allows us to do, to tell the next generation of young civil rights lawyers that justice is possible as long as we're willing to fight for it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, the title of this book is Worse Than a Lie. What does that title mean to you? Why that title?
Yeah, Congresswoman, it was deep because my grandmother helped raise me. My grandmother, like most Black grandmothers, are just brilliant. Even though my grandmother only had a 3rd grade education, she's still the wisest person that I've ever encountered, Dr. Ray, on the face of this earth. And I know y'all have some Black grandmothers like that, just common sense wisdom. My grandmother had the type of wisdom that, and I remember a lot of instances of her wisdom just having me in awe. But I remember one time it was raining real bad, and she used to keep all her grandchildren. And so I said, Dr. Heavenly, with my cousins and them, we said, "Oh, Grandma, it's raining real hard out there. Man, it's bad weather. We don't think we can go to school today." And my grandmother, without breaking stride, she said, "There's no such thing as bad weather. There are only people who didn't properly prepare for the weather that day." And I was like, man, we can't get nothing over on this old lady. But that's the brilliance of Black grandmothers. And it was my grandmother who I heard say, "What's worse than a lie? That is to tell the truth and have nobody believe you." And when you read the novel, it gets so much deeper than that, because you can imagine being in a court of law fighting for your freedom, and you're telling the truth, and nobody in the system believes you. I mean, we have sisters and brothers every day in cities all across America go in courtrooms, and they are forced to lie on themselves and enter into trumped up plea agreements. And I do mean trumped up plea agreements, because they understand that the alternative of rolling the dice and going to trial with a jury of anything but their peers is that they are likely to end up spending decades in prison for a crime that they didn't commit. And that's worse than a lie.
Listen, that brings chills to my soul. What do you think the youth are getting from this book? How are they taking the book?
The one thing I have been so encouraged by, and I know I see some people in the audience, Chance and others who have read the book and shared with me their thoughts. It's kind of deep because, you write and then you have to let it go, and you don't know how people are going to respond to it. But the fact, as Quad said, that New York Times bestseller, that means that we're connecting with the audiences. And the fact, Heavenly, the young people are really encouraging because they already starting to know the characters. They're starting to talk about them on social media. It's kind of deep to see these characters come to life, because when you think about it, Bo Lee Cooper, our avatar, our protagonist in the novel, he's the anchor of the franchise of the series. And so we've seen, as I said, John Grisham's The Rainmaker. We all seen and watch Michael Collins, The Lincoln Lawyer. We got Perry Mason. We got Ben Matlock. You know, we got all these incredible superhero lawyers in the literary world that are brilliant and intelligent, that inspire us a lot in these legal thrillers. But what we haven't seen is we've never seen a brother be a superhero lawyer in one of these books. And so I kept waiting, Quad. I kept waiting, Heavenly, for somebody, one of them, Grisham, to write about a black superhero lawyer, and they never did. So I said, I guess I'll do it myself. And that's what we did. And it's been going so well. I mean, thank y'all for helping make it a #1 best New York Times bestseller, but also Amazon editor's pick for best mystery, thriller, drama book series in the month of February, which was Black History Month. So I was so proud of our black people because I know y'all made it happen.
On that same note, because I've often sat in the audience, people always assume that once you're on TV or you've done some things that have been noteworthy, that you're just always felt that way. That's furthest from the truth. Everyone's the same.
Yes.
So the question I have for you is, because I think a lot of young men especially would look at this and say, you know, I wonder if I could do that. I think a lot of times our men end up in places they don't belong because they never thought they really could do it. So if you could sort of sum up what you would tell people, maybe even related to the book, for young people to say they can do what you've done.
Yeah, now, Dr. Combs, that's the whole reason I wrote the book, to inspire the next generation of young lawyers and social justice warriors out there. All those young people marching in the street for Breonna and George Floyd and Tyree Nichols and Alton Sterling, Stephon Clark, Michael Brown, Trayvon. The list goes on and on and on. We wanted them to be inspired that they could look at not only the reality of the cable news, but they could go look at TV movies and have representation there that would say, you are enough. We don't need others to save us. In this book, it's not just Bo Lee Cooper, but it's also, he has a sister, a Puerto Rican lawyer, who is his co-counselor, because black women are always brilliant and always make us brothers look better. Amen?
Absolutely.
Amen.
And then you have, I was intentional about having returning citizens. Bo Lee Cooper, 2 of his investigators are returning citizens, young brothers who were convicted for selling drugs and they served their time, got out of prison. That was so intentional because, you know, people have to play the cards that life dealt them, and sometimes they make mistakes. Yeah. Nobody's perfect, and y'all know we got this racist criminal justice system that's trying to define a generation of our young people. So I wanted to be intentional, Dr. Kynes, about showing these young brothers. And I think about what Malcolm X said. Malcolm X said in his autobiography, he said that, you know, some of the most brilliant, intelligent minds in America are locked up in 5x7 prison cells. And you all remember he said in the book, I often wonder what could have become of these brilliant brothers and sisters if they were able to expose their intellect and their brilliance to society. So in Worse Than a Lie, I wanted to take that opportunity to show how brilliant these returning citizens were, because I wanted people to see that these brothers were just as brilliant as Matlock. They were just as brilliant as Perry Mason, that we could save ourselves. We didn't need a great white savior lawyer to save us. No, we can do it ourselves. And what Bo Lee Cooper says in the book early on, when he is retained to represent Hollis Montrose, the other main character in the book, this black police officer that was shot 10 times by 4 white police officers on a very historic night. He said to beat a broken system, it was going to take more than just the truth. What was it going to take? It was going to take everybody in our community collectively rising up to say, we demand justice and we're willing to fight for it.
With that being said, Ben, how much of this novel is inspired by your real life?
Well, let me say, it is a fictional novel.
But we
All
want to
the-
get down to it.
all-
You can know I'm gonna ask you about it.
so we don't have any defamation or anything. And it may be similar to some very real life cases. Some people in Chicago read and think this reminds them of their case. It is a fictional novel. And the fact that the comedian Drewski,
Oh, yes.
I got to
yes.
be real careful because he just reached out to us. Y'all saw that some lady, Charlie Kirk White, is talking about trying to sue him for defamation
Oh, wow.
just because he did a parody and so forth. So again, it's a fictional account, but it has a lot of reality of what we work on every day. And there's some similarities between Bo Lee and some country lawyer named Ben Crump.
I'll take that. I'll take that. With that being said, we talked a little bit about all of the work that you've done and the great, tremendous success that you had behind it, which we're very grateful for, because God knows we need someone like you to continue to hit the pavement and work hard every single day.
Thank you.
But how do you balance that? Like, you're constantly getting phone calls and emails, and at every turn, someone is telling you something that is not so warm and not
Yeah.
so welcoming, and often very horrific news.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, writing the book was somewhat therapeutic because it was escapism.
Yes.
And I tell you, what we're dealing with now in America, we really have to fight the fight, but we really need some outlets too. Because, I mean, the stuff they're doing, the attack on Black history and Black literature and Black culture, telling our children when they talk about, slavery in the Civil War in states like Florida and Texas, they're telling them that they must teach our children, that there were positive advantages to slavery, or positive benefits.
Well, definitely not to the African American,
But think
not to
about
the
that,
African
though,
people.
Quad. Think about the
Enslaved people, absolutely
psychological
not.
trauma
Yes.
that's going to have on our children being in a classroom where DeSantis and them said, no, you got to say they were positive benefits to slavery. The other students saying, no, didn't you hear the teacher? Slavery was good for your grandmama and your granddaddy. I mean, to have that. And so what we have to do is be an example for our children. And part of the psychology for me is teaching our children how they respond to that foolishness. And just like Quad, they are unapologetic in their white supremacist beliefs. We have to be unapologetic defenders of Black life,
Yes,
Black
yes.
liberty, and Black culture. Our children are watching to see if we really believe that Black lives matter. And I don't ever want my daughter and any of our other children to wonder, do we really mean it, Quad, when we say Black lives matter? We got to show them.
Every life has value. Now I want to step back just a little bit. Now, when Barack Obama won and the joy of his election, why was it so important for you to contrast Hollis's issue?
Yeah, and it was what was very interesting. When you write fiction, you can be intentional heavily about where you want the reader to go. And so, and it wasn't a popular choice. When I wrote the book, even I signed this huge deal to write these books, and they paid a lot of money, which was like, okay, they're going to get behind it. But they then said, we got this investment. We want a return on our investment. And so they looking at it, they saying, well, he's writing about the main character being shot 10 times the same night Barack Obama is elected president in the historic 2008 election. And I said, no, that is it is germane, it is crucial to what I'm trying to convey to the audience. Because what I was trying to do, Dr. Heavenly, I was trying to create an allegory where you had symbolic figures and symbolic events and symbolic settings to create abstract ideas in the minds of the reader, Quad. So when you have people who really believe once we elected our first black president in America, that we would be living in a post-racial America. I mean, people really believe that, y'all. I know we didn't believe it in the book. In fact, Quad, the chapter before Hollis is shot 10 times, Bo is on a plane flying when they get the election results that Barack Obama just became the first black president of the United States. And there's a white gentleman sitting next to him, and he says, Dr. Kimes, well, buddy, look like you're going to have to find a new career, because now that we have a black president, there won't be no need for civil rights lawyers.
Wow.
And, you know, a lot of people believe that. But what I wanted the readers to understand, just like it was such a great moment of hope and optimism for so many of us in our community, there were half of America who didn't feel that way, and that they had a different response, and there was going to be a reaction, Helen, and that they were going to be some pushback. And so, and I really think what we're dealing with even today in 2026 is still part of that reaction for us electing a first black president. And so we wanted to put it right up there that it was going to have a profound effect on American society going forward, this historic moment in every way. And I tried to make sure we weren't too preachy, but throughout the whole legal thriller, there's this undercurrent of, we now have a black president in America. How's that going to affect the administration of justice? And so it was done intentionally, and the publishing company had to apologize to me.
Yeah.
They had to apologize because we got the New York Times review. And you know, New York Times is the most read newspaper in the world. And every writer wants to get a review from the New York Times. You pray about it and everything. And then they say, okay, they're going to give you a review, Attorney Crump. And then you say, uh-oh. Man, because you pray that it's good, because now you ask God for it, he gave it to you. If they give you a bad review, your book is dead. It's over. And so the reporter, Dr. Heavenly, for the New York Times, she was very honest in her critique. I get the feeling that she was a white woman because of the things she said. She said that, you know, when I first started reading Worse Than the Law, the debut novel of civil rights attorney Ben Crump, I was skeptical. She was very honest, but she said she was pleasantly surprised that it kept her on the edge of her seat, and that it was not only, and this was the most important thing to me, she said, not only was it a great legal thriller, but it was wrapped in black culture, and it was a historic reference point for American society. All because of that Barack Obama contrast with the shooting of Hollis Montrose. So what that tells me to tell, especially young people, always go with your gut. Go what's in your heart. Don't let nobody talk you out of what your beliefs are.
What would be your take-home message for your readers?
You know, it is truly what I say in the first words of the book, Quad. In the first words of the book, I said, to my family and to my friends and those who endeavor to seek truth and justice, please understand it is not for the faint of heart. If you decide to go out and fight for marginalized people, especially black people, you're going to endure some trials and tribulations. Everybody ain't going to like you. Matter of fact, a lot of people on the network that's named after a little animal going to talk about you every day. And you got to be okay with that. I mean, thank God I pledged Omega, and they taught me about humility.
Absolutely.
And, you know, Dr. Cal, you know, you never get too high, you never get too low. You just keep your eyes focused, eyes on the prize. And I go back to my grandmother again. My grandmother said, the height of arrogance is to think everybody gonna love you. And so I take that out. I only care about popularity. I got a mission that God put a calling on my life. And I even part of it writing this book, I said, I know some people are going to be offended. I tell you this, Quad, it was this one, and I normally don't even read comments and everything on the cases we do because we know there's so many sick people out there, you know, saying crazy stuff, issuing death threats and everything. So I don't even bother myself with them. But because this was a book, I was kind of cheating and reading some of the comments and the reviews because I wanted to know. And all of them pretty much, you go to Goodreads and Amazon. I hope all of y'all will go write a review afterwards because Nicole Hannah-Jones, the author of 1619 Project, she said, Ben, make sure everybody writing reviews because you can't trust these white bookstores. They don't want to see us win. So when people keep writing reviews every week, you know the book is selling despite what they try to tell you.
Absolutely.
But one reviewer said something I thought was crazy. He said that the book lacked credibility because seems like the police officers were painted as bad guys.
Did they do something bad? Then there's that.
Exactly. There was video, but it was so deep, Quad, because he was almost suggesting, and when you read the book, you're going to see that we have good police officers in the book too, and so forth. But in his mind, he was saying because the police were the antagonists, that it didn't have credibility. And I thought to myself, Quad, I like to read a lot of books, a lot, especially when I'm on planes. And I've read so many books where they have the black character be just the most evil, criminal, thuggish person. And nobody says that's not credible. But the one time we say a police officer is nefarious, he says, oh, it lacks credibility. And it reminded me when I used to go on a network that is named after a little animal. I would go on there, Dr. Harris, and I'll go and I'll sit down, and they be your friends backstage. They be all, oh, we so honored to have you, Attorney Crump, and they be saying all good things. And then you sit down for the interview, and then it's like ambush. They come right at you. They were like, so you have this case, and you all are calling for the police to be terminated and to be charged with murder and all this kind of stuff, even though you don't have all the evidence. I mean, it's just a straight ambush. Isn't that arrested judgment? Are you saying all police officers are bad? All this stuff, and you be like, wow, okay, all right. So yeah, I gather myself, and you know, I'm a trial lawyer, and I grew up in the projects playing the dozens. So I immediately say, well, Bill, wouldn't you say that all black people aren't bad people? When you agree that most of them are good, I reverse it on him and I say, no, we're not going to give you the high ground on morality. The truth of the matter is what Dr. King said. There's some good in the worst of us and some bad in the best of us. We're all just people. There are good police officers and there are bad police officers. There are good black people and there are bad black people. Why is it so hard to believe that police can be corrupt, but it's so easy for you to believe that black people can be corrupt? And that's what we keep fighting with this book and everything to say, no, we want you to see the humanity in black people too.
Ooh, that's real.
Absolutely.
That's real.
Now, they said it took about 5 years to write this book.
Unfortunately, because they kept killing black people
You kept
in
going.
dramatic fashion.
Yeah.
What was the process like, though? When you finished one, it was another.
Yeah, you know, Dr. It gets very personal, especially with what's going on now with Breonna Taylor. And I talked to her mother the other day. Y'all been watching the news, right? This Trump administration is letting all the officers who lied on the probable cause affidavit, being the people who shot that queen in her own house while she's practically naked. If you can't be safe in your own home, where can you be safe at? And so it was so personal, Dr. Heavenly, when I was writing the part about Hollis Montrose, this black police officer who's on the ground, and he's telling them, I'm a police officer, you know, I have a permit to carry my weapon and so forth. He's trying to tell them, and the officer says, just comply and shut up. It doesn't matter if that boy's in the White House. we're still in control, because there was pushback to this historic moment. And I wrote, and I thought about all those cases: Michael Brown, Stephon Clark, Alton Sterling, Pamela Turner. I mean, all these black people who were unarmed when they got killed. And when he was laying on the ground, I wrote Dr. Heavenly, as the hot metal bullets entered into his flesh. And I kept thinking about Breonna, because we looked at those homicide photographs. I mean, they shot her. Those bullets hit her everywhere. And I kept thinking to myself, how do I get the point across that this could be any of us? I mean, but by the grace of God, any of us can be profiled, pulled over by the side of a road, and become the next hashtag. I don't want you to think my family is immune to this. It could be y'all children. It could be any y'all children. And so when he was on the ground thinking that he may be leaving this earth, Quad, that this may be it for him, those bullets 10 times hitting his flesh, Hollis Montrose screamed out an ancestral cry to the heavens. And I put, for all of the people who had been unjustly killed by the police throughout American history, going back to the slave patrol. Because when you think about it, y'all, so many of those names we will never know, who were killed unjustly just because of the color of their skin. And so that was part of the process, having some emotional outlet for me to try to say things that I don't get to say on CNN or Fox and stuff.
Mahatma Gandhi and the Honorable Dr. King had an approach to make change, and it wasn't to fight with violence. It was maybe to even just not fight at all, so that people could feel that pain. Does this book sort of answer that way, that we unlearn what's been taught in America forever?
Well, I think it certainly teaches America to expand their perspective. But one of the things we do show Black people fighting back in the book a lot. And I'm reminded, and I know we probably got about one more question, and we'll take 2 or 3 from the audience. We got about 10 minutes, so I'm gonna speed it up and sign books. They got to get the room back at 7. All right. And so Jesse Jackson just passed. And Jesse was a great leader, y'all. I mean, Jesse made more Black millionaires in America than ever before. He doesn't get the credit he deserves. I mean, he would challenge corporate America and make them hire Black executives and so forth. And he helped me and Reverend Al on so many cases over the years. But there was this one particular case, Dr. Heavenly, that about 5 years ago, where his health was already in decline. He was still able to walk, but the Parkinson's was having an effect. And Reverend Jackson, I was representing Black insurance agents in a class action discrimination lawsuit. They had Black agents who had worked at the company for 20, 30 years. I can't say the name of the company because it'll breach it, but all of y'all got their car insurance.
That's right.
And so we were suing for these Black agents who, even though they've been there 20, 30 years, you had white agents who were 20 years their junior making just as much money as them, and in some cases making twice as much money as them. And so I understand fighting in the court of law and the court of public opinion. So I asked Reverend Jackson, could we have a press conference in Chicago at his Rainbow Push, since we were in federal court in Chicago? And he said yes. And so we did the press conference. It went real well. And then I said, Reverend Jackson, will you come to court with us? Because I want to keep the pressure on, the media pressure. And he said he would. One of his insurance agent was one of the class representative leaders. And so we went in court, Quad, and the judge was just berating us. I mean, he was talking down to me, I mean, it was crazy. I had a white female co-counsel, and she was like, man, this judge really is coming after you, Attorney Crump. And we kept fighting and so forth. It was on their motion to dismiss. And the hearing lasted for about 4 hours, maybe 4.5 hours. And I mean, at some point we was like, this ain't gonna end well for us. I mean, this judge, I mean, it was like, we talking about equal pay, Ben. He was like, I don't even think you Negroes should be allowed in the courtroom to talk about justice. That's how bad it was. He was coming down. And, you know, I guess Reverend Jackson sensed somewhat of a defeatist mentality in us. And man, Reverend Jackson, we was on a break, he pulled me into a corner. Yeah, and Reverend Jackson said to me, Attorney Crump, you must remember, you don't drown because the water is deep. He said, you drown because you stop kicking. He said, Attorney Crump, our people can never see you stop kicking. Our people can never see their leaders stop kicking. They can never see the people who inspire them to stop kicking. He said, I don't care how stacked the cards are against you, you got to keep kicking. I don't care how big the odds are against you, you got to keep kicking. I don't care about the circumstances, you got to keep kicking. He said, whatever you do, you keep on kicking. And I promise you, we will make it to the other shore. You keep on kicking, I promise you, we will get to safety. You keep on kicking. He said, I promise you, we will overcome. He said, but whatever you do, you gotta keep kicking. And it was so deep, man. I was sitting there, and as I was thinking, I was literally like, wow, Jesse Jackson gave me a pep talk. Right. You know, it was like, all right. But as fate will have it, that's the legacy of Jesse Jackson. We went back in that courtroom. I was renewed. We started arguing more. It lasted about 30, 40 minutes later. And as fate would have it, even though the judge berated us, Dr. Kimes, he did not grant their motion to dismiss. And the black insurance agents got to continue on so they would be able to have their day in court. And that's the legacy of Jesse Jackson. And that's what we all got to remember. That's what Bo Lee Cooper do in the book. No matter what, y'all, especially in America today, with this administration that's in power, we just got to keep kicking. As long as we keep kicking, we will overcome.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
Heavenly, you keep kicking when you're in Congress.
I'm going to keep kicking.
I mean, we got to keep kicking, y'all.
Yeah.
And I'll say this here. Y'all, there was an old black woman at the beginning of this administration. She told me, and I told her I would do this, so this is what I'm doing. She said, Attorney Crump, you have influence. When you go around and you speak around America, people listen to you. She said, I want every time you go around America and you talk to our people, you remind them that we done been through way too many thunderstorms to worry about a few raindrops coming from the Trump administration. She said, when you talk to black people, you tell them, we gonna be all right.
We gonna be all right. Absolutely, absolutely. Listen, I don't want to mess up this quote, but the great Jasmine Crockett, right? She compared your book to Kill a Mockingbird, and she said that was a historic book, and this book is similar. Now, what word would you give to somebody who's breaking a glass ceiling like she has, and she's actually opening doors so somebody like myself can walk through?
Now, y'all, we got to uplift Jasmine Crockett, her courageousness and her spirit.
Absolutely.
I mean, it doesn't matter the result. You do a thing because it's the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
And it's the right thing to go try to break open glass ceilings. It's the right thing to try to go dare to do things that have never been done before, like becoming the first black senator in a ruby red state like Texas. It's another thing for her to be courageous enough, and she's like a little sister, to go out there and speak truth to power and get all kind of death threats and everything. And so when Jasmine wrote that there, she's one of the people they sent the book to read, to get a quote. And it was deep because Jasmine was like, she's a lawyer. And she was like, man, this is like To Kill a Mockingbird. It made me want to go fight for civil rights. And so that's why I want to thank her. And y'all, I know she's not here, but give her a round of applause. That sister deserves for us to keep fighting and keep trying to never give in.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, listen.
Last
question, then we'll open up the floor. New York Times bestseller was Worse Than a Lie. What do you see for next? Do we see maybe a movie on Netflix? What do we see? What do we see?
Big.
Well, we're in talks. We're hopeful. The good thing about it, y'all, is Quad. I wrote the book like Thurgood Marshall to hopefully engage people to be educated. So, you know, television, even though we want more people to keep reading,
Yes.
but the reality is they're going to watch TV more. And so if it becomes a television series like it's being contemplated, it will really help touch a lot of people, help educate a lot of people. Thurgood Marshall made me want to be a lawyer, but if I'm honest, it was watching episodes of Perry Mason with my grandmother that informed me what lawyers do. And so wouldn't it be amazing for young black and brown lawyers to look on TV and see lawyers that look like them and be like, man, like Dr. Kime said, if you can see it, you believe you can be it.
Yes, yes.
So I think it's going to happen, and
Quad's going to star in it. Go ahead.
I'll take a part. Thank you, sir.
Well, the good thing, Quad, it's a book of diverse characters. You got black characters who are lawyers and investigators and police officers. You got Hispanic characters. So it's just rich characters for people who they never consider getting those roles too. So I hope my good friend Ryan Coogler, I hope he's listening and he do his thing.
I know you said, last question. If I could just slide this one in really quickly. The next generation of civil rights attorneys, what's your message to them?
You know, in the sake of time, I'll say it is just like we said at the beginning words of the book. If you're going to do it, it's not for the faint of heart. And the most important thing for this generation is to know that every generation has to take up the baton, and every generation have their own fights. You know, Fannie Lou Hamer, Booker T. Washington, and them had their battle. Martin Luther King, Congressman John Lewis had their battle. Angela Davis, Stokely Carmichael had their battle. We're going to have our battles too. And I pray that Worse Than a Lie can help inspire those young social justice warriors that justice is possible as long as we keep kicking.
Yeah.
Keep kicking. Quad, open up the floor, baby. Go.
All right, we'll take 3 questions, then we're going to sign books and take pictures. 3 quick questions. Okay.
There's a mic that's...
Go ahead, let's go quick. Dr. Heavenly gonna be the Oprah.
Okay, I just wanted to say, I'm gonna make my long story short.
Okay.
And it is I wrote something, I sent it to them, and they told me, a lot of people talk about writing. A lot of people talk about writing.
It is hard.
But you did it.
To God be the glory. Thank you, brother. It is hard to write a book. You want to go get the mic? We got a mic set up. Anybody else got a question? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Attorney Ben Crump.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a blessing to receive this book. Thank you so much. My question is, being that we're here with this great fraternity and considering HBCUs, would you consider your great book as suggested reading in civil rights legal classes?
From your mouth to God's ears, I pray they would do that. Yes, ma'am. I appreciate you helping me make it happen in any way. Yes, ma'am. Last question.
Any other questions? Dr. Nelson, you got a question? Go ahead. There you go, baby.
Good afternoon. It's an honor to be here today with you, Mr. Crump. My question is, when you were, this book is just another layer to all of the amazing things that you've done so far. So when you're, whether it's a case or whether it's a book or whether you just got a call about another person in our community that has an ill will fate, how do you pray? How do you prepare, and what prayer do you say for that?
Yeah, nah, you know, I pray constantly throughout the day, and I give God all the glory. I never ever believe is that I'm doing something so great. It's God's grace, God's calling that I try to be obedient to. I even think about Trayvon, the first big national case, even though we had been doing the work, that was God watching us, saying if we were going to take a case that lawyers had turned down, that 99 out of 100 lawyers would turn down even today, because, you know, y'all remember the narrative on Trayvon, little black kids suspicious, supposed to be breaking their houses, white person says it's self-defense and shoots him in the heart, goes home and sleeps in his bed at night. And I remember before, you know, the FAMU students and the Bethune-Cookman students started saying, I am Trayvon, before LeBron James and the Miami Heat all put on the hoodies and tweeted out the picture, we're all Trayvon, and it got seen, retweeted 5 million times. Before they had the Million Hoodie rally where young people in New York City shut down Park Avenue, saying that we support Trayvon. Before the Howard Law student wrote that change.org petition and said the killers of Trayvon Benjamin Martin should at least be arrested, to have them come before the court of law and face the evidence against them. And it became the most successful petition in change.org history. And before President Barack Obama went into the White House Rose Garden and said, if I had a son, he would look like Trayvon Martin. And before Trayvon Martin became the #1 news story in the world in 2012, it was just me and a broken-hearted father on the phone, and nobody was watching save God. And I believe God was testing me to see if I was going to use the blessings that he bestowed me with, the law degree and the resources and the title, if I was going to use it for what my grandmother always referred as the least of these. And, you know, I remember talking to my partner at the time, Daryl Parks, who's a better businessman than me. And Daryl was like, man, Crump, we gonna waste all our time, all our energy, and a lot of our money, and they still probably won't arrest him. And I remember saying to him, yeah, but if we don't do it, who will? And so I just stepped out on faith, trying to do the right thing. And God took over from there. And all those other things you couldn't have convinced me, all those things were going to happen with Trayvon, that, you know, almost 16 years later, they'll still be writing stories about Trayvon Martin. But it just tells you, when we reach out and try to do good, God takes over from there. So I'm always saying the 23rd Psalms constantly. You know, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. I'm constantly going into courtrooms and to hostile situations, repeating that over and over to myself, saying, make a joyful noise unto the Lord in the 100th Psalms every time you're in the midst of the battle. You know, you just continue to say, God, if God is for me, who can be against me?
Amen, amen, amen.
Thank you for that question.
Thank you for that question, Doctor.
So
Very good question.
now we want to do the books up here? Go back there. Where we want to sign the books? Back here. All right, everybody, we're gonna go back here. We're gonna sign them. Gonna take pictures and give Quad a big hand and give the Congresswoman, Dr. Heavenly, a big hand. Thank them so much for taking their time out.